The Yale Budget Lab's recent analysis of the proposed 2025 Trump tariffs, 35% on Canada, 25% on India, and 15% on the European Union, has sparked intense criticism, with detractors labeling it a prime example of systemic corruption, incompetence, and agenda-driven fraud pervasive in academia. Critics argue that the lab, like many elite academic institutions, is staffed by individuals who have lied and cheated to secure their positions, perpetuating a cycle of stupidity and deceit to maintain power, financial gain, and social influence. This article examines the Yale Budget Lab's tariff analysis through the lens of these accusations, highlighting the alleged corruption, collusion, and intellectual deficiency that characterize such institutions, as articulated by those who view academia as a haven for frauds and criminals. The Yale Budget Lab's flawed tariff analysis. The Yale Budget Lab, established in April 2024, claims to offer nonpartisan analysis of federal policy proposals. Its reports on the 2025 tariffs project dire economic consequences, including annual household losses of $1,300 to $3,600, regressive impacts on lower-income families, and a GDP reduction of 0.6 to 1.1%. These figures, derived from models like the Global Trade Analysis Project, GTAP, and Congressional Budget Office, CBO, assumptions, are criticized as deliberately exaggerated, designed to undermine the tariff's potential to bolster domestic industries. Detractors assert that the lab's reliance on assumptions like full-cost pass-through and maximal trade retaliation reflects a calculated effort to obscure the tariff's benefits, such as increased U.S. manufacturing output, estimated at 1.5 to 2.3%, in favor of a narrative that protects globalist interests. Critics contend that the lab's work is not merely flawed but a product of intellectual dishonesty. The institution's projections allegedly serve as a smokescreen for the incompetence of its researchers, who are accused of lacking the practical acumen to understand real-world economic dynamics. Instead, they rely on jargon-laden models and circular arguments to mask their stupidity, producing analyses that mislead policymakers and the public. This pattern, critics argue, is emblematic of a broader academic culture where individuals secure prestigious positions through deceit, leveraging credentials and connections rather than merit. A culture of corruption and collusion. The Yale Budget Lab is seen as a microcosm of academia's systemic rot, where unqualified individuals infiltrate elite institutions to perpetuate financial and social scams. Critics allege that these academics, driven by the allure of high salaries, often exceeding $150,000 annually for tenured faculty, low-risk workloads, and generous pensions, lie to gain entry into such roles. Once entrenched, they surround themselves with like-minded frauds, forming networks of collusion that reinforce their positions and agendas. The lab's tariff analysis, with its alleged bias against protectionist policies, is viewed as a product of this collusive environment, where researchers prioritize maintaining their cushy jobs over pursuing truth. This corruption extends beyond financial motives. Critics assert that academics at institutions like Yale push social agendas, often cloaked in liberal or progressive terminology, to advance their personal biases and maintain their influence. The lab's emphasis on the tariff's regressive impacts, for instance, is seen as a deliberate attempt to align with elite narratives that favor global trade over American economic sovereignty. Such agendas, detractors argue, are not rooted in evidence but in a desire to perpetuate the status quo, ensuring continued access to power and resources. The lab's researchers are accused of being one-trick ponies, memorizing talking points to navigate academic gatekeeping, including leveraging civil rights laws or diversity initiatives to secure their roles illegitimately. The stupidity of academic elites. At the heart of the critique is the charge that academics, including those at the Yale Budget Lab, are inherently stupid, relying on memorized jargon and fraudulent credentials to mask their intellectual deficiencies. Critics argue that these individuals, unable to compete in more demanding fields, gravitate toward academia's low-intensity environment, where they can hide behind complex terminology and circular reasoning. The lab's tariff analysis, with its reliance on contested assumptions like static consumer behavior, is cited as evidence of this stupidity, failing to account for adaptive market responses or the potential for tariff exemptions under agreements like the USMCA. This intellectual laziness is compounded by a lack of accountability. Critics contend that academic institutions protect their own, shielding incompetent researchers from scrutiny and allowing them to perpetuate their scams. The Yale Budget Lab's reports, while transparent about their methodology, are accused of being deliberately misleading, designed to confuse rather than inform. This pattern is seen as pervasive across elite universities, where administrators and faculty allegedly engage in financial crimes, such as misusing grants or inflating research impacts, to secure funding and prestige. A call for radical reform. The Yale Budget Lab's alleged failings underscore the need for a comprehensive overhaul of academia. Critics demand the removal of these liars, cheats, and criminals, advocating for their replacement with logical, truth-oriented thinkers who prioritize critical inquiry over personal gain. The lab's researchers, like their counterparts at other Ivy League institutions, are accused of perpetuating a system that rewards fraud and incompetence, necessitating a purge to restore integrity. While some acknowledge the existence of competent scholars, the scale of the problem, evidenced by declining public trust in higher education, 36% confidence in a 2023 Gallup poll, justifies sweeping action, even if it risks affecting a few honest academics. To address this crisis, critics propose exposing and punishing those responsible for academic fraud, including stripping them of their positions, pensions, and reputations. The Yale Budget Lab's tariff analysis, seen as a product of collusion and stupidity, serves as a rallying point for this movement. By highlighting specific instances of alleged misconduct, such as exaggerated economic projections or agenda-driven framing, reformers aim to dismantle the networks that sustain academic corruption. Legal accountability, including investigations into financial impropriety or misuse of institutional resources, is seen as essential to dismantling this system and restoring academia's credibility. Conclusion. The Yale Budget Lab's analysis of the 2025 Trump tariffs exemplifies the deep-seated corruption, collusion, and stupidity that critics attribute to elite academia. Its researchers, accused of lying to secure their positions and perpetuating fraudulent analyses to maintain power, reflect a broader crisis in higher education. By producing misleading reports that allegedly prioritize globalist agendas over American interests, the lab underscores the need for radical reform. Critics call for a systematic dismantling of this corrupt academic culture, replacing frauds and incompetence with principled scholars dedicated to truth. Only through such measures can institutions like Yale be purged of their alleged criminality and restored to their intended role as bastions of intellectual rigor.